this episode begins, I'd like to thank this episode's sponsor and sponsor behind the mod, Nodecraft. Nodecraft is an awesome Minecraft server hosting provider that lets you easily make a server with a great custom control panel. You can install mods and mod packs very easily. They have great support. I use them personally. They're amazing. So check out the link in the description for 15% off your first month with Nodecraft. Thanks to Nodecraft for sponsoring this episode and all of Behind the Mod. Hey everyone, it's me, Amaxter. This is Behind the Mod, Season 3, Episode 15. Today I have dmillerw joining me. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. So, let's talk about how you got started modding first.
Ooh, that's a fun one. Sorry about that. It was actually, wow, it's quite a while ago now. Um, there was this random YouTube channel I was following at the time that was doing PHP tutorials, and they started doing Java tutorials. And to kind of, I guess, simplify the experience, they started off doing really simple Minecraft modding tutorials, and I just started following along with those. I'd been kind of playing Minecraft for a while, and it seemed like a fun next step. It was interesting to me, and just kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah. And what was your first mod?
Oh, God. Um, oh, man. I think it was this random dinky little mod that added coins, just like random coin-based items. We were using it for some server I was playing on, I think. Oh. Nothing special, but it was interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, and since then you've made a lot of smaller mods, some of which are less small than others, but a lot of them are pretty unique. When would you say you started making, multiple mods?
I want to say maybe about a year in. As I started growing more comfortable with Java, I just started growing more comfortable with how Minecraft works. I started kind of branching out a bit, and yeah, I'd say about a year in. I want to say, oh man, I think it was like, no, honestly, I don't remember. About a year in would be my
Yeah.
best guess.
And what do you think was the first like big mod you'd consider that like everyone that was somewhat popular or that, kind of quickly gained attention?
That would actually have been teleportation stones, which at the time I was incredibly proud of. But basically, it was a mod that just added dyeable, essentially rocks to the game that, when used, would teleport the player to the associated dyed platform wherever in the world, and it gained a lot of attention, at least at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what I remember is one of I think I don't know one around when this was, but I know Remote IO was a very popular mod back in the day. Still kind of is, but back when people were trying to hook up a ton of stuff to one block, you made this mod that kind of solved that problem.
Yeah, that was definitely easily one of my most popular mods. One of the ones I was really kind of kind of proud of, kind of happy with, and kind of I want to say got the most attention, at least until now. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, and I think it was a cool idea, and it's interesting that people. I don't know. I think it kind of. I mean, I'm sure people still use it, but I think people have like I feel like people have kind of stopped using it in favor of other solutions. What do you think that those kind of solutions are?
I feel like a lot of mods have kind of developed their own solutions, whether it's similar, like one of the biggest reasons I believe people used Remote IO, at least at the time, is one block was doing a lot of the work, and so obviously you needed, those multiple sides, that multiple, that space in order to give the block everything it needed. I feel like mods have kind of moved away from that, kind of giving each block more of its own purpose. And so just by nature, you don't necessarily need that same amount of flexibility. That's just kind of what I see.
Hmm. Yeah, and the kind of flexibility in game, we've seen lots of mods prefer less full of GUI like zipper blocks and more kind of spread out multi-block structures or like immersive style constructs that people make. But when it comes to GUIs, you've also done something similar with MineMenu, which kind of lets you invent a ton of more keybinds essentially, because you have this radial menu that pops up, which is it's a really nice utility for mod packs. When did you get the idea to make that?
Ooh. It's weird. A lot of my ideas will just they're not like sparked by any one thing. It's kind of just over time they'll, you know, I'll get an idea here and there and it'll just kind of evolve over time. So I don't remember when or why I came up with it, but I'll have these days where I'll just sit down, code out a real simple kind of rough draft of something, and then it just kind of goes from there. So it was one of those ones where it just kind of happened, with no rhyme or reason to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I guess that makes sense because sometimes people just like get ideas randomly. Another one of those mods is Quadrum, which what it does is for those who don't know, it lets you add blocks, and it does it through JSON or a similar kind of custom config system that lets you define your own blocks. And I think it was really cool because that came out before anything kind of like it really came out, and I think it fits in really well with stuff like MineTweaker. Um, were you inspired by MineTweaker or tools like that?
No, I'm trying to remember. At least I think I came up with the idea before MineTweaker was super popular. Um, but I think what it was is I was actually browsing the Feed the Beast subreddit, and I noticed there were some people who were, kind of having issues dealing with just working with what blocks, mods, and vanilla added. They wanted more flexibility, and it just kind of came from that. I wanted a real simple way for people to actually have that flexibility, and it like everything else, it kind of spiraled from there. But it was just a lot of my mods tend to come from an idea I see or something that's lacking that either I see or multiple other people start seeing. And if I find it interesting enough, I just end up tackling the issue. So that's really where that came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems tailor-made for mod packs, like just the way it's designed. So the mod packs can add their own custom stuff easily without having to make their own mod.
Exactly. And that really was the idea from the beginning, was make it simple enough that, same with MindTweaker, someone without actual coding experience can do a lot and really get closer to their vision of what their mod pack should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of your mods serve as really nice tools for that. In that style. So you worked on Subsistence at one point, which was a collaboration with Cyanide X for a pack he was making, right?
Yeah.
And
And
so, when did you start working with him?
oh gosh. I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, actually. He's usually one of the people I've known longest in the community. Um, he actually reached out to me a very long time ago because he had this idea for a mod, um, nano circuit mod, I think, which was originally going to be an add-on to Red Power 2. And it was this really nice idea that kind of does what Super Circuit Maker does now, where you have condensed redstone circuits in a single block.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he kind of reached out to me, you know, to have me help him out with that, and it evolved. It became electrodynamics. He and I have worked on other projects together, like lore expansion, stuff like that. And then subsistence was kind of the not so much the evolution of electrodynamics, but borrowed a lot of concepts from it, but more tailor made to fit his idea of the mod pack, which was Infernal Skies. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then in that same vein, there's a lot of these mods. You did work on lore expansion as well, which was also a utility mod, but let you kind of make custom books in this really nice way, or well, custom lore that would play with specific actions, so you could kind of have a lot more immersive storytelling.
yeah. and it wasn't. I don't think it was made specifically for Infernal Skies, but it was definitely along the same lines. Like we came up with the idea around the same time that Infernal Skies was being developed, so it definitely has a lot. Infernal Skies and Subsistence definitely spawned a lot of some of the more utility mod ideas that I've had lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you have all these mods that do this really cool stuff that are great for mod packs. What do you think is the coolest use you've seen of any of them?
Hmm. I don't think there's really been anything like amazing that I've seen. I mean, they've all more or less, people have used them more or less for what they're intended to be used for. Like I've definitely seen, I think, what was it? Uh, it was a popular mod pack in 1.7.10, I think, that made some pretty heavy use of Quadrum, and I thought that was quite cool. But I mean, for the most part, I don't notice a lot of, at least not a lot of usage for these mods jumps out at me, but I know they're being used quite often, and I mean that by itself is kind of humbling. There, it's a pretty cool feeling, but
Yeah,
nothing specifically jumps out.
yeah, and that's probably a good thing in some sense because people are you're not supposed to notice that, oh, this is a block added with Quadrum. Like it just kind of fits in with the game already, and I think that's kind of why that your mods are so useful in that sense.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. So more recently, you've done this new mod, which is Impractical Storage, which kind of throws away this whole concept of you know abstract storage systems and um, puts storage to a whole new extreme where you essentially have physical space in the world as your storage.
Yeah, um, definitely. It's something I've wanted to do for quite a long time, actually. Um, Even people who have been following me for a little while will know that some of my earlier mods that were more kind of tech oriented kind of followed along the same structure. Um, Mods that I've made in the past that have content generally try, with the exception of Remote.io, try and follow that concept of more large scale constructions, more making use of the space in your world, and practical storage was kind of like just the next step. Um, I've had the idea for well over a year now, but it was only just recently that I actually found time to sit down and actually code it out.
hmm And do you think this is kind of gonna be appealing to people who are playing with a lot of other mods and want like a harder way to store items from them?
I don't necessarily know if it's because people want a more difficult way to do it, but I know there is a a good part of the community that likes the idea of the large scale constructions, the large scale everything. I mean, what Rorax's mod, Steam and Steel, uh, kind of followed the same line. You have stuff like immersive engineering. It's clearly something that's sought after in the modding community, and not just by those people who want a harder experience, but just by those people who want something different.
hmm Yeah, and I mean, you definitely Impractical Storage is definitely different, and I think it kind of forces you to think about the way you play differently because when you have an AE or like an ME system, you can really easily just throw items in there without thinking about what what that's doing. Whereas this is kind of like it visually shows you, oh my god, look how much crap I have.
Right, exactly, and that's one of the joys of it. Um, I've always enjoyed the concept of being forced to build giant warehouses, being forced to really consider, plan everything ahead of time because you're gonna have a bunch of stuff, so you're gonna have to plan ahead of time to make sure you actually have room to accommodate it. It definitely requires a different style of playing, which I don't think not a lot of people are catering towards or at least considering at the moment. So it's a fun change, I think.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of I think it was Buildcraft, the crystal chest from that, but like a much more obviously tangible version of that. Because I mean, it's on one hand, it's a way to see your items, but also it makes very good use of the mechanics of the game. Because fundamentally Minecraft's a building game. So, why not have your storage be something that you have to build, like physically in the world, which is a pretty cool idea. How's the reception to it been so far?
It's been really good as far as I can tell. I mean, I've seen a couple people just, at least according to CurseForge anyway, it's found its way into a couple mod packs so far. There's a fair amount of people trying to help me out with bugs and, constantly giving feedback. Every now and then I'll see like a post about it on Reddit and stuff like that. And, for a mod that hasn't been around terribly long, I think it's doing quite well. Um, Especially since it got featured on the Minecraft forums as well, one of their featured posts, which that was pretty impressive to me. So yeah, for something that's not been around very long, I think it's going quite well, and I don't see why it won't continue to grow like that.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. That it's a new and very different style of mod that encourages such a different play style. To see that have positive reception is always good. Do you plan to work on any new mods besides that, or do you just plan to keep updating the mods you already have?
Honestly, I can't say. I mean, most of the time my plan is to just keep updating things I have. I don't necessarily plan on making new ones. But they do tend to just pop into my brain sometimes, and then I have no choice but to sit down and make them reality. So we will see. Hopefully, I can spend some time just updating because there's a lot of stuff I need to update that I haven't found time for. But I have no idea, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes we don't have an idea. Because sometimes I find myself, for example, just making a mod pack because I see like one mod will be updated, and I'll be like, okay, you know what, I gotta make a mod pack for this now. And I think it's probably similar, with modding too. I imagine where you just sometimes you get an idea, sometimes you don't, sometimes you have the time to do something, and sometimes you don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So aside from that, looks like kind of we're wrapping up. Do you have any more closing thoughts?
Not really. Um, I'm not so good at interviews, to be honest with you.
Well, that's
Uh,
fine. Uh, First time for everything. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you everyone who is listening or watching this because you can get this on YouTube and as a podcast, all those great places. And yeah, see you in the next one. Goodbye.
all right, bye.
Before the show's over, I'd just like to thank all of my patrons on Patreon. So right now, that's Seth and Jonathan. Thank you so much for your contributions. If you want to be like them and support the show and me, then feel free to click the link in the video description. Thanks, and see you next time.